Okay, now that obligatory funny intro is over, it's real video time. On the 14th of November 2022, Creeps20 sent out a beta tester application for his mod Garden Rush, and I took the opportunity to apply. Flash forward 10 months to the 18th of September 2023, and Creeps finally releases Garden Rush on his server, so I finally took the opportunity to say something. This video. And I must say, what an amazing mod. Holy moly. No other mod has taken the opportunity to reinvent the wheel nearly as much as Garden Rush has. I think it's a completely revolutionary mod, literally redefining what a mod should be, completely breaking bounds that modders hadn't dared touch. And on top of all of that, it nailed the new gameplay aspects and raised the standards of mods in general. Modders will really have to step up their game if they want to make something this innovative and great again. But obviously, as with any mod, Garden Rush has its flaws, and I'll get into that. But we're gonna just ride on the positivity train for a little bit more before getting to that. So hope the Creeps20 assassins are fine with that. Now, what exactly did Garden Rush change? Garden Rush has essentially created a brand new way of playing by taking aspects of the game Kingdom Rush, another tower defense game, and implementing them into PvZ2. You might think that given the philosophy of previous modders, that Garden Rush would just be the same tired old thing, but ooh, the Kingdom Rush! But instead, Creeps uses those borrowed elements and centralizes the PvZ gameplay around them to create a gameplay loop that feels amazing. I'm surprised how well he nailed the gameplay, especially since this is something brand new. You may notice quite a large change in the gameplay here. Yes, the mod only gives you 4 seed slots to work with, meaning you have to deliberate your seed slot selection a lot more, since you have very little room to work with. I love this change. It really puts the focus on your strategies and forces you to change up what you're doing for each level instead of just doing the same loadout over and over again. Your new main abilities at hand are Endurian Drop, a wall that's weaker than normal plants, but recharges quite quickly and deals a decent amount of damage. Needle Burst, an extremely powerful board wipe that can clear out zombies easily, but takes a really long time to recharge. And, exclusive to normal mode, Squash, which acts much like it does in vanilla, but with heavily reduced damage. It's still really strong, however. The 3 normal given abilities are what the game balances itself around, and that was such a good idea in the grand scheme of things. This means that the mod can remove almost all instant kills, except for Needle Burst and Squash and Normal, which I consider the most problematic category of plants as they are the most versatile plant and should be always used in every situation in almost every other mod. With this, balancing becomes both easier and better, which is something that I applaud Creeps for. This method of getting rid of instant kill plants is a great idea, and it's made using the ability to wipe out the board feel more balanced, which is not a thing that I would ever think would be possible in PvZ2. These all add up to the incentives for you to switch up your strategies and change your loadout to suit the level, which is something I absolutely think more mods should be encouraging. It's something I think is a good way to make people more creative with how they do their strats in PvZ. I talked a lot about normal mode, so I should probably explain what that is. Garden Rush, like some other mods before, has a normal and expert mode. Normal contains mowers to give you a second chance, Squash to help clear the crowds, and easier levels overall. Expert has harder levels and no Squash or mowers. They're honestly pretty different experiences for what I've played. They really are in completely separate territory. Normal is somewhat challenging, but overall isn't too punishing, while Expert is quite challenging, even for experienced players, which is a nice thing to see. I think that challenge is something that experienced players have been looking for a while, and Expert mode gladly gives them that challenge, while being fair. Another large change is obviously the plants and the zombies. The plants have all been reworked a lot to fit the new style of gameplay. They are now very weak, with P essentially dealing half the damage of vanilla, which is really not very powerful, especially considering P's place in vanilla PvZ2. However, to compensate for this, plants now have 100 HP standard, in which vanilla equivalent is 1000 HP, which is a big buff to the plant's survivability, having a 700 HP advantage, increasing the lifespan by 7 seconds from 3 to 10. This completely changes how you use plants. They might be weak, but they can survive a fair bit of time being eaten, so they can still take down a basic. This change both makes plants not very powerful and quite good at killing zombies, which even more paradoxically, works excellently together. This was designed so well that I wonder how more mods haven't used this system. It's that good. Regular zombies and special zombies are all relatively similar to how they work in vanilla, with some big exceptions like Imp Camper and Gargantua. You'll see when you play. Basics die in 10 hits just like in vanilla. However, it'll take 30 seconds for one pea shooter to kill the basic because of its halved attack speed. What really makes the zombies unique here is how they interact with the new weak plants and the seed slot change. Zombies that didn't really feel like that much of a threat before are now quite challenging to deal with. Bucketheads will definitely fill you with dread as soon as you see them. With all the changes made, the zombies feel like a new challenge altogether, and it feels so fresh and new to fight these zombies as well as very difficult. Never forget Polaroided Balloon Zombie. Oh wait, how could I forget to talk about the big boys in the room? Hero plants. They're super cool. All of the hero plants cost 0 sun, can only be planted once, have 100 seconds starting recharge, and each have their own set purpose. Sir Cabbage is your basic hero, 150 damage and 50 splash every 10 seconds. He's good in a lot of situations. I have some problems with him that I'll be discussing though. Sunny Twins is a really cool plant. They're more efficient than 4 sunflowers, being approximately 450 sun values worth of sunflower on one tile. It's an extremely powerful plant when used correctly, and can easily help build up a good defense. There are issues with it that I'll go more in depth in later on, with the problem of Sir Cabbage and such. But let's touch on Susie Wiz first. Susie Wiz is amazing. She's honestly the best hero of this build. Every 25 seconds, she can turn the furthest left zombie into a plant-fooded Endurian, which is a really, really good ability. This essentially makes her one of the best defensive options in the game. Plant-fooded Endurian shields have 660 HP, which are incredibly tanky. Not only that, she can instantly kill almost all zombies except the Gargantua, because obviously. Yet, she still feels balanced to play with, because she requires a lot of effort to be used correctly, and her walls are less tanky than walnuts. She's the hero that's probably the most well executed, and I think that she's the perfect example of what a hero plant should be. Gushing about all the many good things about this mod was fun, but now it's time to get into the sections that Debbie Doubters were waiting for, and the section of the video I think that's most important for progress: the flaws and the negatives about the mod. You probably noticed I didn't really talk about sun producers in the previous section. Why? Because I have problems with them. Some pretty big ones. The issue I'm going to talk about is probably the biggest issue I have with this mod, so let's go into why. This mod makes sunflower optional. You might be thinking already, oh, there's no problem with that, and honestly I'd agree. The issue is that with this change, sun producers now have to be considered into the mix of balancing plants even more, and the 2 sun producers aren't the best balanced, I'll say. Sunflower costs 125 sun, has 5 seconds of recharge, and produces 25 sun every 25 seconds. Now, on paper, this might seem very unviable, but it really isn't. In fact, I think it's the opposite. The sun production easily carries you through certain difficult levels since you can place them down quite quickly, and can also make their cost back surprisingly quickly. It's frankly a bit ridiculous. This is immediately compounded with the Sunny Twins, which is 4 sunflowers occupying 1 space for free, which is inherently problematic since it ties itself to the production of sunflower. The issue with tying one plant to another, if you balance one of the producers, inevitably you'll have to do the same buff or nerf to the other one, and one can end up being overpowered and the other just fine, or one could end up being underpowered and the other just fine. It's a really big issue when it comes to finding the balance. However, there's one big thing that creeps can do to fix the issue of the Sunflower and Sunny Twins conundrum, and that's adjusting the recharge. The problem with Sunflower is that when you can place down a lot, your sun production becomes really good, to the point where you can have 1,000 or more sun in reserve with 3 or 4 rows of heavy plants. But with adjustment to the recharge, you can use that to nerf or buff the potential output of one plant while not touching the other, which is probably the best you can do with having a hero plant depend on a normal plant. Personally, I would just decouple the 2 plants and let Sunny Twins do something else, but if Creeps is really insistent on the 2 plants being entwined, then the recharge is the next best thing. Increasing the recharge might also give you room to do stuff like Suncross decrease or toughness increase. Another problem I have is with the specific plant of Sir Cabbage. He's quite a simple plant that is easy to use. That's also very powerful. And that's the problem. Currently, Cabbage is too powerful for the amount of effort you put into it, which just adds disincentives for strategy change-up, which I think is probably the worst thing a plant could do. I think a reduction in its crowd control, or enough to the speed in which it fires, could do, because as is right now, I don't see much reason to not use it in the levels. One thing I've found that isn't a problem now, but could potentially be a problem in future, is just how well balanced the mod is. You might be really confused at this point. Why would the balance being really good be an issue? One thing, future mechanics. With the current balance being so tight-knit, if you were to introduce something like plant food in the mod, it could bring a lot of problems to the current state of the mod, as mechanics like that are game-changing, with fundamental changes to how plants play, which could easily disturb the great balancing of the plants from this first release. It's a difficult tightrope act to do this sort of balancing well. I do hope that he's able to balance out these ideas for future releases, because this is a great start. Now obviously, I might be a bit biased. I'm part of the team, so why should I be expressing my opinion like this? Because I think expressing my opinion like this is really important. I'm pointing this stuff out because I want this to improve. Yes, it might be a bit nitpicky at times, but it's better for me to get my opinion out there, because this is a project that has insane potential, and could inspire so much more in the PvZ2 modding community. I want this project to be as good as possible. That's why I joined in the first place. Hopefully when we get more content out to you, the mod will be even better than it is now. And I'll be aiding as much as I can, so it is the best it can be. So hopefully I've inspired you all to make your constructive criticism. That's all I can really hope anyway.